This is Mrs. Skotnicki, of course, and today I am talking to you about the Thesis Notes Directions Part 2. These I have deliberately held off on giving you this set of directions because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to start analyzing the material you're reading until you've read enough of it to be able to say something intelligent about it. You may find these prompts helpful. I've gotten to a point where I have them in the back of my head all the time because I've been doing research and writing for many years now. But if you're not quite sure how to begin an analytical statement, then by all means begin the statement with "this matters because" or "this is significant because." You can always take those signal words out. Usually the sentence makes perfect sense even without them, but they're a good reminder for your brain. So I'm going to scroll down my notes now and show you what that looks like. You remember at this point I have two sources. I have notes on two sources. And so adding analysis is just a matter of going into your notes and interpreting the information that's there for the reader. And the reason this is so important is because this is your paper. You and I can read the same article and see the same information, but you are going to interpret that information differently than I or anyone else on this planet will, because we each bring a unique perspective to our subject matter. So I'm interested when I read your papers in what you make of the information. And frankly, all of us are interested in what you make of the information, because I can read the same article as you can, and I can observe and note and read the same information, but my interpretation of it is going to be different than yours. And I'm curious how you see things. And that, of course, is what makes your paper unique. So each little bit of analysis here is your interpretation of the information you have researched. So I'm going to read a couple examples of mine and kind of talk you through what I'm writing. And some of them are more significant than others. And that's okay, because when it comes down to writing my paper, I may not include absolutely every piece of information that I have found through with research, or rather that I have found through research. So to begin, I have just sort of a background piece of information. Barry Eckhouse, professor at St. Mary's College in Moraga, California, instructs other professors how to effectively teach online. I included this because he's the expert being interviewed. And so that's part of how I build evidence for my argument, is I show the reader that the material that I have found has credible sources, right? And in this case, his name is Barry Eckhouse and he's professor. So I also can explain that the interview subject has a lot of teaching experience to draw upon as he instructs his peers how to make the transition from classroom learning to online learning. So basically, I make my argument explicit to the reader, and I say, look, this guy can be trusted because not only, is he a professor, but he's been teaching for 35 years. All right. Let's go down and I'll show you another one. In 2013, a study completed by the Babson Survey Research Group, that's another piece of evidence, found that more than 7.1 million higher education students took at least one online class. Researchers at Babson College have been studying this trend for about 10 years. The numbers of students taking online courses has steadily increased. So why is that important? Well, this matters because, and then here's my analysis, the regular presence of online courses makes it essential that educators figure out how to best teach students digitally. I could add right now that that is no more important than today, right here, right now, when all of us as educators have been all of a sudden placed into a circumstance where we have to give lessons online. So it matters. All right, one more example. Academic leaders do not believe MOOCs, massive open online courses, to be a viable option for online learning. Better options are hybrid courses that feature online coursework and face-to-face learning. So some tests of online learning have failed, and perhaps they failed to take into consideration the needs of all but the most intrinsically motivated students. So that's a little bit of my analysis of why MOOCs didn't quite make it, right? I mean, yes, they're free. Yes, they were taught by some of the greatest professors in the country. But if you have no connection, and that's really what happened with MOOCs, to the instructor, to the course, to the other students, then you're probably not going to continue with it, because what is it really getting you anyways? So that's analysis, all right? And then to recap, what's going on here is you are talking about every little bite of information that you found through research, and you're analyzing it, and you're interpreting it, and you're explaining it only when you need to. I mean, this really isn't so much an explanation, unless, of course, it's something that's highly technical. If it's, something to do with philosophy or astronomy, or something that, the average reader is not going to understand without some kind of a translation, that's when you explain. But mostly this is a higher level of thinking. You should be comparing and contrasting, you are relating it to things, you're asking questions, you're verifying arguments, so on and so forth. So I'm going to share my notes with you. You can see my analysis here for the first two sets of notes that I have taken, and you can also see that I have yet a third source. I have not gone through and analyzed this source yet, but I will be doing so as I continue to do my notes. That's all for today. Take care, and please feel free to reach out to me with questions.